that's your favorite subject. Cold calling.
Oh, yeah.
The movie?
No, I've actually written a book about cold calling called The $1 Million Rebuttal. And what I'd like to do is tell you my story. Basically, a lot of people have heard in the last couple of years that cold calling's dead. Kind of been a mantra, cold calling's dead on LinkedIn, Facebook, everywhere. So I'd like to go back to my story and talk about what happened to me in my cold calling success, and hopefully we can change some hearts and minds, and the way you feel about cold calling can change. Essentially what happened is back in the 90s, my family business tanked. My dad lost his 30-year-old business, the family home was lost, I had to find a new job, and so quickly found a job telemarketing. When I was on the job, I found that right away I was really suited for it. I could actually set more appointments, more than most people on the team. But unfortunately, I wasn't making enough money to make ends meet. So I was still kind of in a crisis mode. So, and a lot of people have found themselves in that situation. So I talked to some friends. One guy said, ride the clock. Right, come in early, ride through lunch, go through lunch, stay late. That didn't work for me. Somebody else said, well, your only option is to get a second job. So that's what I did. I got another job, telemarketing. 14 hours a day, telemarketing. And I can tell you that's got to be one of Dante's rings of hell. I was actually falling asleep on the job, in the second job, right? Crashing down, waking up, these calls coming at me. So that's not working. So I stopped listening to my friends and realized I got to do something different. There's got to be a better way. So what I realized was on my job, I had a salary plus a commission for every appointment that I would set. And I realized this was an unlimited opportunity. All I had to do was figure out how to set more appointments on my job, and I could rapidly increase the amount of money that I was making. So at the time, I had been reading some motivational books, See You at the Top, Think and Grow Rich, and this idea popped in my head of setting 15 appointments a day. The average person in the job set 2 to 3 appointments a day. So 15 would be a dramatic increase. And so I meditated on that, and after about 6 months, I implemented what I learned, the tactics that I learned, and I started setting 15 appointments a day, every day, for 6 months. Every day I woke up and set 15 appointments. And with the increased income, it was over 1,800 appointments I set in just 6 months. I was able to buy land in the country, I paid off my car, built a house for cash. So I really used that and transformed my financial situation. So what I'd like to talk about now is really how did I do that, right? How did I set all those appointments? And so I believe something very powerful. I believe that anything is possible. And if you remember back when you were a child, we've all heard that, right? Anything's possible. Your parents told you that anything's possible. But at some time we started not remembering, not believing that. And so, but basically I believe when it comes to lead generation and appointment setting, anything is possible. This means that in theory, right, we should be able to go ahead and sell unlimited amounts of accounts. No limit. Set unlimited amounts of appointments. But what is holding us back? There's the limiting factor. The limiting factor is that people believe that a good prospect has to have a need. Right? Who believes that? Who believes a good prospect has to have a need? Right? This is almost a mantra. This is business 101. But unfortunately, we can't set a limited number of appointments if we hold on to that belief, because so few people actually express a need in the marketplace. No matter what market you're in, whether you're selling printers or IT, you call around, most people say they don't have a need, right? So how can we transform that? Well, really the only way to do it would be to go out there and cause thousands of people in your market to suddenly have a need, right? What are you going to do? Wave a magic wand? Poof. These people all have needs. Now let me call them and make appointments and sell. Actually, no, that sounds crazy. But that's actually the right marketing approach. Because essentially what you can do is you can create a need in somebody's mind who previously did not have a need. This is what I call true sales. When you're calling and finding somebody that has a need, that's what I call order taking. Oh, you want a pair of pants, size 32 waist? Let me get it for you, here you go. So therefore, I believe that it's possible to set vastly, dramatically more appointments and sales to people who don't have a need. Now what I like to do is I like to tell you a story that happened, my story, when I first got into retail. I was still in high school. when I was on the job, I realized quickly that everyone that came into the store told me the same thing. I'm just looking. We probably say that, right, when you go to the mall. Can I help you? I'm just looking. But after a while, I realized that one group comprised two groups of people. One part of that group was somebody who actually had a need and didn't tell me. And the other part of that group was somebody who was really just looking, right? Who do you think was a better lead for me? Anybody?
The one that was.
You think they were the better lead? Okay. So what I did is I realized I needed to separate the sheep from the goats. And so what I did is I would bring everybody back. Oh, you're just looking, sir? Great, let me come back here. I've got a sport coat I'm going to put on you. Before you could say anything, you'd have a sport coat on. And I would take you over to what I call the magic mirror. You'd be sitting in front of the mirror, you'd have this nice sport coat on you. And I'd be talking about how great it would be to be, get that promotion. You know, you're going to look sharper, you're going to get the promotion. All these great things. Now, well, something interesting would happen. The person that actually had a need would get nervous. You know, they feel like they're going to walk out there with a coat they don't want. They say, sir, I'm just here to get socks. They just wanted socks. So I took the coat off, I got them socks and got them out of the store. The truth is, the people who didn't have a need sat there and didn't have any problems. I could show them 3 or 4 sport coats. They would leave with 2 suits, 2 sport coats, 3 ties, pants, shirts, because the reality is I made all my money from people who didn't have a need, who were just looking, right? And so that's I want to talk about that for a second, because when I say that, set appointments with people who don't have a need, what am I saying? People who don't have an interest, right? Who wants to meet with somebody who doesn't have an interest, right? But what I'm talking about, if you can think of a scale, right? On one end, there's people who are fanatically loyal to their current service provider, right? Maybe Apple followers, right? On the other end of the spectrum are people who actually have a need. Let's say that's 3, 4, maybe even 10% of the market, of any market, right? 20% of people who are fanatically loyal. That leaves this entire middle area. The middle area is comprised of 2 groups of people. People who are not fanatically loyal and who are open-minded. The other group of people are people who have not reached the needs state yet. In other words, they're starting to experience problems. They've had a couple issues with their financial guy. They've had a couple of issues with their IT guy. But you know what? We're going to give them plenty of rope. We're not going to throw them under the bus. That group of people, that is where the market is, to radically increase and call these people. So how do you do it? How did I do it? How do you sell to people who don't have a need, right? How do you increase your appointments and make more sales? The most important thing you have to do is you have to build a better mousetrap. You can't go in to somebody who's open-minded with the same product or service they already have. You have to enhance your product, change it, change the way you build, do something different, innovate it in some way, come up with a 2.0 process. What that does, it allows you to transform a sales call into an educational call, right? Now you're educating them about something new. And that's the only way you can break through to these people. Now the other thing that I hear often, and I was surprised, I actually met a few people here that said they like cold call, right? That's good. That's good. But one of the couple of challenges to cold calling is people say, well, it's a numbers game, right? You got to call hundreds of people. Who wants to sit around in your business and call hundreds of people, right? Nobody wants to do that. Well, the truth is, if you sat there and call hundreds of people in order, your contacts would go down. You would decrease your contacts. If you really want to reach more people, you have to have a smaller group of people that you call, right? Not hundreds, 20 or 30, and increase the number of calls into that group. Call them more often, and then you dramatically increase the number of appointments you get. So you actually call less people, not more people. And then basically it's easy. You don't spend a lot of time on the phone. Of course, it is not a totally easy process. So one of the tricks I did that allowed me to set 15 appointments a day, right? You may not need 15 appointments. You may need 10. You could sit there for a couple of hours and get 5 or 6 and be happy for a few months, right? But what I did is basically what you have to do is you have to convert that process into something easy by transforming into your super alter ego. What do I mean by that? Transforming into your super alter ego? Tapping into your subconscious mind, right? If you can meditate if you can visualize, if you can have a mantra and say these things over and over what your goal is, you can unleash superpowers, which is what I did. That's how I was able to do that. Now the other problem is, okay, well, it's a numbers game, but man, the gatekeepers. You know, if I'm going to try to increase my contacts, the gatekeeper is going to stop me before I even get through. The truth is, there is no international order of gatekeepers meeting secretly to try to figure out how to block your call. It's not happening. It's a falsehood. The truth is, most salespeople are inexperienced. Whether the way they make the call, they pick up the phone, they're all excited. Hi, my name's Bob. I want to talk to the owner. Or just the way they talk and introduce themselves. They're alerting the person on the phone to stop them, right? So once you realize that, and then you implement some of my techniques in my book, which is making the prospect feel important, distracting gatekeepers. I have over 20 different ways that you can get past gatekeepers and make it easy. So, ultimately, what is the $1 Million Rebuttal? The $1 Million Rebuttal is what I call, it's the ultimate send information rebuttal. The idea is you have an educational campaign, right? You're calling and educating people. And you say in my book everything that they won't agree, they won't argue with, which leads them all the way down to they will ask you to send information, right? Normally that's what you don't want. Anybody's done calling? Damn, they asked me to send information. That's what I wanted. Every one of those calls that I said, all 15 appointments, every one of them asked me to send information. And I used the $1 Million Rebuttal to convert them. Basically what the $1 Million Rebuttal is, it's a powerful psychological tools that combine leading the witness, reverse psychology, and even planting ideas in the prospect's mind that they think are their own. It's like the Jedi mind trick. They've told you, I don't want to meet with your rep. Just send me some information. Now you've used the $1 Million Rebuttal, and they say, oh, you know what? Can you send a rep out to give me a sales presentation? That's what the $1 Million Rebuttal is. So, ultimately, what I'd like you guys to remember from this is that cold calling's not dead. You can set more appointments with people, prospects that don't have a need. My name's David Walter, and I'm the superhero of cold calling. I do have some good news. Who would like to get a copy of the book if they would order it today? How many people do we have that would like to get a copy of the book? I'm going to give away some gift cards real quick.